Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another last minute revision one shot session on a very important chapter of your class 12 board exam as well as for NEET exam, a most important chapter of unit number 1, zoology of class 12, that is human reproduction. So, without wasting any more time, let's move on to the topic. So this is our Telegram group t.me/neat_biopoint where daily session updates, regular discussion, polls, quizzes, and interact as it takes place. So those who are not a part of this Telegram group, don't forget to join the group right now, right here, to get more sessions on one-shot series, discussions, quizzes, and polls based on previous year questions. Those who are watching the session right now, don't forget to hit the like button, do share it with your friends, and subscribe this amazing channel for BioPoint. Stream the world of bio for biology NEET. So let's get started with this supremely amazing chapter on human reproduction. So I'll be telling each and every concept behind it in a very minute and in a detailed way so that each one of you who are here watching the session for the first time even understood this very well. So let's get started with this chapter. So don't forget once again to hit the like button, those who haven't done it till now. So let's get started. Introduction is the human beings are sexually reproducing organisms and that are viviparous. Okay, so we know that point number one, human beings are sexually reproducing organisms and they are viviparous. And we know that reproduction, so the whole unit deals with the same topic or the same concept itself, right? Reproduction, it is actually the formation of offspring. It may be identical to the parent, it may not be identical to the parent. They have genetic similarity, may not have genetic similarity. It all depends upon the type of reproduction. There are mainly two kinds of reproduction: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So all these simple topics we know because I have already taken the one shot series for the first two chapters of this unit, right? So asexual mode of reproduction and sexual mode of reproduction. So both these concepts are known to us. What is asexual reproduction? What is sexual reproduction? All these are familiar topic for all of us. So I'm not going into details of those topics. So asexual reproduction. So now I'm just giving you an important term of asexual reproduction. So when you studied about the first chapter, you studied about the clones. What are clones? The offsprings or the products formed as a result of asexual reproduction. The product formed as a result, the products formed as a result of asexual reproduction that causes or that have the similarity with, that is, they are having genetic as well as morphological similarity with their parents. Genetically and morphologically identical offsprings are formed as a result of asexual reproduction. So they are known as clones. But in case of sexual reproduction, they have genetic variation. Sorry, they have morphological variation, even though some of their genetic characters would be the same. Either mother or the father, they will inherit all the kinds of genetic materials. So, oh my god, yes. Sexual reproduction is very important for the continuation of species. Continuation of species, very important point. This was a previous year MCQ statement. Previous year question, statement based question. Reproduction is essential for the continuation of species. Yes, reproduction is a process of formation of new offspring which may or may not be identical to the parents, and they are required for the continuation of generation or continuation of the race or continuation of the species. Is that clear? So now I am going to teach you about the events of sexual reproduction. So what are the different events which are involved in sexual reproduction? So in the chapter number one, I have already mentioned you about the three main important steps which are or which can be seen in case of the sexual reproduction. That is the pre-fertilization, fertilization, and we also learned about post-fertilization events. So I'm not explaining in detail about these because already the session have been taken. I'll share the playlist of that reproduction in organism in our Telegram group after the session. Okay, so all these topics have been clearly taught about as separate classes over there. So now on this, I'm not going to make it again recall. I just wanted to tell you about these three steps and what all should be included over here. And I'm not going to explain in detail again about all these steps. And we are going to study in, sorry guys, in chapter number 1 we have studied about pre-fertilization, fertilization and post-fertilization events, and also there we discussed about what are the main important steps or the events that takes place under each of these particular steps. Okay, so in this chapter, in human reproduction, we are going to deal with complete topics related to these three topics. Okay, we can divide this whole chapter of human reproduction into three parts, that is pre-fertilization events, fertilization events, and post-fertilization events. In the second chapter also, we divided the chapter into three and studied it like that only. So here let's get started with the 7 steps which are involved, the main 7 steps which are involved. The first one is gametogenesis. The first step is gametogenesis. Gametogenesis, what do you mean by genesis? Genesis means formation. Genesis means formation. So, theory of abiogenesis, theory of evolution and all you have studied, right? So, theory of, here we are going to study about gametogenesis. That is, it is a process of formation of gametes. The process of formation of gamete is called gametogenesis. Clear, everyone? So this is the first topic which we are going to study in this chapter. So gametogenesis is actually the production of gametes. In case of males, the process of formation of male gametes, that is sperms, are known as spermatogenesis. And in case of females, it is known as oogenesis. Okay, so spermatogenesis is the process of formation of male gametes, that is the sperms. Oogenesis is the process of formation of the female gamete, that is the ovum. That is step number 1, gametogenesis. Second step is insemination. Insemination means the process of transfer of sperms into ovum is called insemination. Guys, can any one of you recall and tell me what was actually the similar process which takes place in plants for the gamete transfer? One similar process in case of animals, it is insemination. So in case of plants also, male gamete have to be brought together with the female gamete for fertilization. So it is brought about by a process in case of plants, and that process is known as none other than it is known as pollination. Self-pollination, cross-pollination, we studied, right? So that is the second step, which is insemination. Third one, fertilization, the process of fusion of male and female gamete to form a single-celled zygote is called fertilization. Implantation is the process of attachment of ovary to the endometrial wall of the uterus. To the endometrial wall of the uterus is called implantation. The period of embryonic development, the period of embryonic development is known as gestation. Okay, so this is actually a mistake. Okay. So, the period of embryonic development is called the gestation, and it's approximately 280 days. It is approximately 280 days or 9 months in case of humans. Okay. So guys, I'll tell you an extra point over here. In case of humans, the gestation period is 280 days. That is 9 months. Okay, the gestation period is 9 months. 9 months or 280 days. But in case of elephant, The gestation period is 720 days. 720 days. 720, 720 days. So you have to, just for an information. Okay. In humans, the gestation period is 280 days. In elephant, it is 720 days. Parturition is actually the final process. Parturition is actually the final step. That is a process of delivery of the baby is known as parturition. So parturition is also known as the delivery of the baby, or birth of a baby is known as parturition. Is that clear? So let's move on to the next slide. In detail, we are here going to study about the male reproductive system. So the male reproductive system consists of four. The male reproductive system can mainly be divided into four. That is, it consists of a primary sex organ, it consists of accessory duct, it consists of accessory gland, and an external genitalia. Is that clear? Four parts we can divide it. So the primary sex organ in case of human males is paired testis, or this primary sex organ the primary sex organ is also known as gonads. What you'll call it as gonads. So this was a previous year NEET MCQ question. This was a previous year NEET MCQ question. The primary sex organ in human males is the testis. The primary sex organ in human females is the ovary. Is that clear? What do you mean by primary sex organ? It actually refers to the organ that produces the gametes and the female or the male sex hormone respectively. Clear? So testis is a primary sex organ. It produces sperms and androgen, that is the male sex hormone, that is the testosterone. Next is the accessory duct. What is the function of accessory duct? It conducts sperm. It conducts sperm. So accessory duct follows the order retitestis, followed by vas efferentia, then epididymis, vas deferens, and finally ejaculatory duct. Okay, each of these have different function, which we would discuss in the upcoming slides. Clear? Okay. Next is the accessory gland. What is accessory gland? Seminal plasma is secreted by the contribution by three different accessory gland. Three different accessory gland. They are the prostate gland, which is only one in number. Seminal vesicle, which are two in number, and bulbourethral or Cowper's gland is also two in number. So this is an important exceptional case, right? So all other accessory gland in human male reproductive system are paired, but the prostate gland is only one in number. So this can be an MCQ question for your NEET examination. The external genitalia means the copulatory organ. What do you mean by copulatory organ? It is actually the organ that helps in the transfer of sperms, that helps in the transfer of sperms into the female reproductive tract. Female reproductive tract. Clear? So external genitalia helps, that is in case of males, it is a penis that helps in the transfer of sperms into the female reproductive tract. Clear? So let's discuss in detail about each of this. Male reproductive system is located in the pelvis region. It consists of a pair of testes, accessory duct, accessory glands, and an external genitalia, which is the penis. First, we are going to discuss about the testis. It is a smooth organ. It is a smooth organ situated outside the abdominal cavity. Situated outside the abdominal cavity within a pouch-like structure called a scrotum. Within a pouch-like structure called the scrotum. What is actually the function or what is actually the advantage of the testis lying inside the scrotum? What is its advantage? Can any one of you tell me? It's already mentioned also. So let's not waste our time and let's discuss that. The scrotum helps in maintaining the low temperature of the testis, which is 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius, lower than the normal body temperature. Normal body temperature. Okay. normal body temperature. Each testis is 4 to 5 centimeter in length. Very important. I'm highlighting it like this in order to make you clear about it. Clear? So 4 to 5 centimeter in length and 2 centimeter wide in adult. Each testis has 250 compartments called the testicular lobules. Each testis has 250 compartments known as the testicular lobules. Each testicular lobules contain 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubule in which the sperms are produced. Clear, everyone? Is it clear? Yes? Hope it's clear for everyone. So each testis is 4 to 5 centimeter in length, 2 to 3 centimeter width in adult. Each testis has 250 compartments called the testicular lobules, MCQ. 1 to 3 highly coiled structures. Each testis contain 1 to 3 highly coiled structures called seminiferous tubule in which the sperms are produced, MCQ. Clear? So I'll be highlighting it. Okay, everyone. So the wall of each seminiferous tubule, is lined by two types of cell, that is a male germ cell or spermatogonia and the Sertoli cells. Clear? Is it clear for everyone? Yes. So I'll highlight it. Okay, it helps you more in your preparation, or you can just refer those points because you may find these similar statement in your NCERT too. Okay. So once again, let me highlight it. You can also just highlight the important points with me. Human male reproductive system is located in the pelvis region. It consists of a pair of testes, accessory glands, accessory duct, and an external genitalia. It is a smooth organ. It is a smooth organ situated outside the abdominal cavity within a pouch called scrotum. Within a pouch known as scrotum. Okay. The scrotum helps in maintaining the low temperature, which is 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius, lower than the normal internal body temperature. Each testis is 4 to 5 centimeter in length and 2 to 3 centimeter in width. Each testis has 250 compartments called the testicular lobules. Each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled structures called seminiferous tubule. Clear, everyone? So the wall of each seminiferous tubule is lined by two different types of cell, that is the male germ cell or the spermatogonia and the Sertoli cells. That is these two cells, that is the male germ cell and the Sertoli cell, is actually lining the seminiferous tubule internally. But the region outside the seminiferous tubule, it has one more particular cell, that is interstitial cells or the Leydig cells. So the region outside the seminiferous tubule, you call them as the interstitial spaces. So that interstitial space contains small blood vessels and particular kind of cell which is called the interstitial or the Leydig cell, which produces the male sex hormone. Clear, everyone? So Leydig cells synthesis and secrete the testicular hormone called the androgen. Clear? Is it clear? So point number 1, point number 2, point 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Clear? So these are the important points which we have to discuss. Clear? So all these highlighted points are previous year MCQs. Clear? So study it like that. Next, this is just a recap for you guys to remember what other topics included in this particular chapter. So the male accessory duct, okay, the male accessory duct include the retitestis, vas efferentia, epididymis, and the vas deferens. The seminiferous tubule, very, very important previous year NEET MCQ. The seminiferous tubules open into the vas efferentia through the Reti testis. That is, guys, they are talking only about this particular pathway. Okay, you have to study that pathway and read that statement. You will understand it easily. The seminiferous tubule of the testis open into the Reti testis, open into the vas efferentia. Look, they open, right? They open into the vas efferentia through the Reti testis. That's the only thing which have been mentioned. Is it clear? So Reti testis, through the Reti testis only they will open into the vas efferentia. The vas efferentia leave the testis and open into epididymis. Open into epididymis along the posterior surface of the testis. Very important. Posterior surface of the testis. MCQ, which you can expect for NEET 2021. MCQ. Okay, everyone. Epididymis loop over the urinary bladder. Sorry, leads to vas deferens, which loops over the urinary bladder. Vas deferens receives a duct that opens into urethra as an ejaculatory duct. The urethra acts as a common passage for both urine as well as semen in case of human males, and that leads to an external opening called urethral meatus. What do you mean by meatus? All those opening. Meatus means opening. Small opening. The biological or the technical term is the meatus. Clear, everybody? Is this slide clear for each one of you? Yes. Next is the accessory gland. The male accessory gland. Okay, the male accessory gland include a paired seminal vesicle, a prostate gland, and a paired bulbourethral gland. Okay, paired bulbourethral gland. Accessory glands secrete a particular fluid which is known as a seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose, calcium, and some enzymes. Secretion of the bulbourethral gland helps in lubricating the penis. Secretion of the bulbourethral gland also helps in lubricating the penis. Is that clear for everybody? Is that clear? So the male accessory gland, paired seminal vesicle, a prostate gland, and a bulbourethral gland. The accessory glands secrete one particular fluid which is known as the seminal plasma, which is rich in calcium, fructose, and some enzymes. They also contain anticoagulating factors and all. Secretion of bulbourethral gland also helps in lubrication, of penis. Clear? So the penis, as we have already discussed, it is a male external genitalia. It is made up of special tissues that helps in the erection of the penis. The enlarged end of the penis is known as the glans penis, and a foreskin, which is a loose covering, covers a loose fold of tissue that covers the particular tip of the penis in case of okay. So the penis is the male external genitalia. It is made up of special tissue which helps in the erection of the penis. The enlarged tip of the penis is known as glans penis, and you can also see a foreskin, which is actually a fold of tissue that covers the glans penis. Is that clear for everyone? Clear. So let's move with the next part. Yes, a very easy one, a very important one too. Okay. So female reproductive system, it consists of a paired ovary, accessory duct and the external genitalia, which is together commonly known as the vulva. Paired ovary, that is, they are both present on the two sides of the uterus. The accessory duct include the fallopian tube, uterus and the vagina. Look, if this is the fallopian tube, okay, if this is the fallopian tube, okay, so if this is a fallopian tube, you can see that the fallopian tube, the initial part, this particular part is known as the infundibulum. Okay, this initial part is known as the infundibulum. Next, this part is known as ampulla. Okay, it is actually different parts of what? This particular fallopian tube or the oviduct. So I hope you can make it clear. So the last part of the fallopian tube is known as the isthmus. Is known as the isthmus. Exactly like that, you have the fundus, body, and the cervix. These are the three different parts of uterus, and you have the vagina too. Clear? And the external genitalia, in case of males, it was penis. In case of males, it was penis. But in case of females, it is not a single one. It is composed of 5 different openings. That is a mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and the clitoris. Is that clear? So in our textbook or in the early days, it was told like hymen was a reliable indicator of virginity. But actually in our text, it has been clearly mentioned and we have to understand that hymen is the presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity. Because in the earlier days, it was mentioned like after the sexual intercourse, the hymen just breaks out. So that indicates the virginity. Clear. But nowadays, due to the heavy exercises, due to cycling, horse riding, then those women who are participating in sports, heavy items and all, the hymen may break automatically. Okay, so we cannot say that hymen is a natural or reliable indicator of what? Reliable indicator of virginity. We cannot tell that. Is that clear? So let's move on. Here also I'll be highlighting the important points. No need to again just tell all these things in detail because you have studied all these things, I suppose. So female reproductive system, in case of male also, male reproductive system is located in the pelvic region. Female also located in case of females in the pelvic region only. It consists of a pair of ovary, a pair of oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia. A pair of mammary glands is also integrated. A pair of mammary glands is also integrated structurally and functionally with the female reproductive structures. Okay, and there are many different processes that are happening inside this particular female reproductive tract. That is ovulation, fertilization, gestation, parturition, care of the baby after birth. So here a pair of oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina constitutes the female accessory duct. So let's discuss about the ovaries. Ovaries are the primary female sex organ that produces the ovum and several ovarian hormones which are steroid in nature. They are located one on each side of the lower abdomen. Each ovary, this is an important MCQ question, each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. This is again an important one. The ovarian stroma is divided into two zones, that is a peripheral cortex and an inner medulla. Is that clear? So I'll just highlight it again and explain it. So the female reproductive system is present also in the pelvic region. Pair of ovary is there, pair of oviduct is there, uterus is there, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia. So along with the female reproductive system itself, we will study about the mammary glands. There are different processes that are happening inside the female reproductive system, that is ovulation, fertilization, gestation, parturition, and care of the baby after birth. So ovaries are the primary female sex organ that produces several ovarian hormones and the female gamete, which is the ovum. They are located on lower side of the abdomen, and very important and expected MCQ question. We can expect this as an MCQ question. Okay, for the upcoming year, located on one each side of the abdomen, covered by thin epithelium. Very important, the important word over here. Divided into two zones, that is a peripheral cortex and an inner medulla. Highlighted point. Okay. Okay, everyone. Highlighted point. So that's all in this particular slide which we have to discuss. Clear? So look, we have so many things to discuss. Okay, we have so many things to discuss. Clear, everyone? So next is the oviduct. Next, we are going to discuss about the oviduct. So oviduct or the fallopian tube, it is 10 to 12 centimeter in length. It extends from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. The part which is closer to the ovary is the funnel-shaped infundibulum. Funnel-shaped infundibulum, whose tips contain small finger-like projections called fimbriae. Fimbriae helps in the collection of ovum. Look, guys. Actually, the ovary will be like this. So in this particular area, you will have the ovary. So from that, the ovum is first collected by the finger-like projections over here, which is the fimbriae itself. So the fimbriae collects the ovum after ovulation. So from infundibulum, the infundibulum leads the ovum to the ampulla, and the ampulla is the wider part of the oviduct. From ampulla, it is passed on to the isthmus, which has a narrow lumen and joins it with the uterus. So the site of fertilization in human beings is the ampullary isthmic junction. Ampullary isthmic junction. Clear? So by this particular area, clear, you will have the fertilization taking place. Is that clear for everyone? So if this, once again, I'll make you understand. One second, let me draw a clear diagram. Okay. Okay. Small finger-like projections are approaching like this. And in that small finger-like projection, you will have the ovary attached. Okay, ovary. So the ovary is attached like this to the pelvic wall and to the uterus. So as soon as the ovum is released, the ovum will pass on like this. Fimbriae, infundibulum, ampulla, ampullary isthmic junction. So as soon as it reaches over here, the sperm will also come over here. The sperm will not cross the ampullary isthmic junction. In certain cases, in any abnormalities and all, only it will happen like that. Or else the fertilization will definitely happen for oh my god. The fertilization will definitely happen for sure at this particular area. This area is known as the ampullary isthmic junction. In the lower classes, we study like fertilization happens inside the fallopian tube. As we are approaching the higher classes, we have to study the definite part where it takes place. Okay, so the uterus is also known as the womb. The uterus is also known as the womb. The shape of the uterus is an inverted pear-like structure. The ligaments attached. So there are ligaments attached to the pelvic wall support the uterus. The narrow cervix opens into the uterus, opens the uterus into the vagina. The cervical canal, that is the cervix plus the vagina together, you call it as the birth canal. Okay, listen to the words. Cervix plus birth canal. I'm talking about the birth canal. Cervix, clear everyone, cervix plus cervix plus the vagina together constitute what? The birth canal. Clear everybody? Yes. So there are three layers of uterus. There are three layers of tissue that consists in the uterus. That is the outer perimetrium, middle myometrium. This myometrium layer helps in the contraction during childbirth, and a glandular layer which is endometrium. Very important statement which I'm going to explain. During menstrual cycle, the whole statement is very important. So just mark it like this. During the time of menstrual cycle, the endometrium undergoes cyclical changes. The endometrium undergoes cyclical changes. But the myometrium exhibits strong contraction during parturition, that is childbirth. Clear everyone? So that's all we have to study in this particular slide. External genitalia, as we have already discussed, vagina is the external genitalia. It includes mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and clitoris. Mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissue cover the skin and the pubic hair. Labia majora are the fold of tissue extend down from the mons pubis and surrounds a vaginal opening. Labia majora, there are paired tissue that forms labia minora. Hymen is the membrane covering the vagina partially. Very important. According to new NCERT, they have just changed the statement. Covers the vagina partially. Very important term. And at last you have the clitoris, which is actually equivalent to penis in males. So if you have any difficulty in any of the words, just comment out it on the chat box, or you can just comment me on the comment section so that I'll reply for that. Clear? So equivalent to penis in human males is the clitoris. Very, very important. Next is the mammary glands. Hope you all know that. If you have any doubt, you can just ask me. Okay. Mammary gland are actually paired structure which are consist of glandular tissues and fat. The amount of fats varies from person to person. The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. Divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. Okay. Containing cluster of cells called the alveoli. So clear for everyone. And this produced milk is stored in the lumen of alveoli. Is that clear? Clear everyone? So mammary glands are actually paired structure which consists of glandular tissues and fats. The glandular tissue is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes that contains a cluster of cells called the alveoli. The alveoli cells produces the milk which is stored in cavities called as the lumen. Stored in the cavity is called the lumen of alveoli. The alveoli form open into the mammary tubules. The mammary alveoli opens into the lumen. So mammary lobes consist of alveoli. Alveoli opens into lumen. Lumens open into the mammary tubules, and each tubule join to form a mammary duct which together form a wider mammary ampulla. Mammary ampulla is connected to the lactiferous duct and finally to the nipple through which the milk is sucked out. Is that clear? So these highlighted points are very, very important. Clear? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 MCQs we have discussed over in this particular slides. Let's move on to the next one, the next slide on this screen. That is, we are getting into the process of gametogenesis, which is spermatogenesis in males and oogenesis in females. So I'll show you how many slides are left behind. Now we have been teaching you the 15th slide. We have a total of 32 slides. Okay. So I hope the gametogenesis I could take in today's class up to structure of sperms or yeah, let's discuss. Okay, let's discuss. So the process of formation of gamete in primary sex organ is called gametogenesis. Gametogenesis includes spermatogenesis and spermiogenesis in males and oogenesis in females. Oogenesis in females. The process of formation of sperms are known as spermatogenesis and include 3 phases, which is very, very important. Multiplication phase, growth phase, and the maturation phase. Okay. Multiplication phase, that is the first one is the multiplication phase. Second one is the growth phase. Third one is the maturation phase. The conversion. So here you have to study about 3 different terms. First term is the spermatogenesis. I'm again highlighting it, spermatogenesis. Second term, conversion of spermatids into sperm is known as spermiogenesis. Maturation of sperms is known as spermiation. Okay, guys, so I'll explain it for you. Spermatogenesis. Second term is spermiogenesis. Third term is spermiation. Clear? Spermatogenesis, spermiogenesis, and spermiation. What do you mean by spermatogenesis? Spermatogenesis is the process of formation of sperms. Spermiogenesis means the conversion of spermatids into sperms. Okay, everyone. So, and oogenesis means it is a process of formation of ovum, process of formation of a mature female gamete. So now listen very, very carefully. I'm going to highlight that first and I'm going to explain it only in the presence of a diagram in the upcoming slide. Oh my God. So listen very, very carefully. And if you have any doubt, just ask me. Clear? Don't worry like this is a premiere session. So how can I clear my doubt? No, you can just clarify my doubt. If you want me to explain it in my own voice, just take a screenshot of that slide and send me in my Telegram. Okay, at NEET_biopoint group or anything, you can just tag me and send me over there. So I'll explain it to you in personally. Clear? So the process of formation. So MCQ type question, I'm going to convey to you. The process of formation of sperms is called spermatogenesis. It includes 3 phases, that is the multiplication phase, growth phase, and the maturation phase. Growth phase and the maturation phase. In multiplication phase, first we are going to study about the multiplication phase, right? So in multiplication phase, the male germ cell are also known as spermatogonia under mitotic division to form a large number of spermatogonia cells. That is the first step which is involved. Second step is in the growth phase. In the growth phase, these formed spermatogonia increases their size by the accumulation of nutrition in the cytoplasm and gets ready for the meiotic division, and the spermatocyte in this case is known as the primary spermatocyte, having a total number of 46 chromosome, The last phase is the maturation phase. In the maturation phase, a primary spermatocyte completes the first meiotic division, leading to the formation of two equal haploid cells called the secondary spermatocyte, which have only 23 chromosomes each. And the secondary spermatocyte undergoes second meiotic division to form four haploid equal cells, which is known as the spermatid. Clear? As we have already discussed, we are now going to discuss about the spermiogenesis. The spermatids are transformed into sperms by a process called spermiogenesis, and after spermiation, the sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cells. And the process of release of this matured sperms from the Sertoli cell, that you call it as the spermiation process. Clear for each one of you, I hope. Clear? Is that clear? Process of formation of sperms, spermatogenesis. It includes three phases: multiplication, growth phase, and the maturation phase. In multiplication phase, male germ cells are also called spermatogonia under mitotic division. In growth phase, spermatogonia increases by accumulation of nutrients to form the primary spermatocyte with the 46 chromosome. Maturation phase, it undergoes the first meiotic division to form a secondary meiocyte with 23 chromosomes, and the secondary spermatocyte undergoes the second meiotic division to form four spermatids. Next, spermiogenesis process. The process of transformation of spermatids into spermatozoa or sperms are known as spermiogenesis. And after spermiogenesis, sperm head becomes embedded in the Sertoli cells and are released from these seminiferous tubule by a process called spermiation. Is that clear? Yes. So I'm going to explain it again. So guys, at the time of puberty, first important point in case of human males, gamete formation starts only at the age of puberty. So at the puberty, the spermatogonial cell, the male germ cell, converts into a spermatogonial cell, which is actually diploid. Is it clear? Diploid. So this particular spermatogonia undergo mitosis to form a primary spermatocyte, which is again diploid. Clear? So the primary spermatocyte, look how many primary spermatocytes are formed? 4. Okay, 4. Is that clear? So you can call it the one of this particular primary spermatocyte enlarges to form a secondary spermatocyte. Okay, a secondary spermatocyte that is formed by the first meiotic division. Okay, finally leads to the formation of spermatid, and this process is called spermiogenesis by the process of differentiation. Is that clear? So many numerical type question can come over here. Many kinds of numerical kinds of question, which you have to by heart this particular table, which can evaluate yourselves, and you can evaluate the questions also with the help of this individual tables only. Instead of studying the last one paragraph, you will definitely forget it. Am I right? You will definitely forget it even though you by heart each and every sentence of this particular paragraph. Okay. So it's better you have to by heart this particular table so that you will be able to do any kinds of questions, coming as a part of it. Clear? Hormonal control of spermatogenesis. Hormonal control of spermatogenesis. So I'll give you a table which will help you to study this entire process. Hormonal control. So guys, we have the hypothalamus. Right? We have the hypothalamus. So this hypothalamus releases a hormone which is known as the GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. This particular gonadotropin releasing hormone act on the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, so this particular gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is the GnRH, comes and act on, as soon as it is released, it comes and act on the anterior pituitary gland. So as a result, the anterior pituitary gland is stimulated and it leads to the release of two different hormones. Okay, the anterior pituitary releases two different hormones, that is FSH and LH. Guys, you can draw the table along with me. Clear? So the FSH act on the Sertoli cells. Okay, whereas LH act on the Leydig cells. Okay, and this particular action on the Sertoli cell actually leads to the production of inhibin, which actually inhibits, impresses, and increases and suppresses the functioning, which will indirectly act upon this FSH. And this another function that it stimulates, helps in the process of spermatogenesis. Clear? And the Leydig cells actually leads to the production of different types of male hormone, that is the testosterone. Is that clear? So guys, the hypothalamus secretes one particular hormone. The hypothalamus secretes one particular hormone which is known as the GnRH. Okay. So that GnRH is acted upon. Oh my God. That GnRH is acted upon on the anterior pituitary gland, which secrete two hormone, FSH and LH. Is that clear? So the FSH act on the Sertoli cells and the LH act on the Leydig cells. And finally, that leads to the secretion of inhibin and also helps in the process of spermatogenesis. Leydig cells helps in the process of androgens. I hope now the table is clear so that we can now move on to the slide which makes you understand the thing easily. Yes. So let's start the discussion. Spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty due to significant increase in the secretion of gonadotropin releasing hormone GnRH from the hypothalamus. The increased level of GnRH stimulates the anterior pituitary to secrete luteinizing hormone LH and follicle stimulating hormone FSH. The LH act on the Leydig cells and stimulate the synthesis and secretion of androgens. Androgens stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. At the same time, FSH act on the Sertoli cell and secrete two different factors, androgen binding protein and inhibin, which helps in the process of spermiogenesis. Oh guys, really sorry. In the last thing, I have told you like spermatogenesis, like okay. Actually, according per our textbook, it is in certain textbook, you can see both of the words. Actually, spermiogenesis is actually coming under spermatogenesis, right? So androgens indirectly help in spermatogenesis, but Sertoli cells or FSH acting on the Sertoli cells directly help in the process. So that's all in this particular hormonal control. Is that clear? Next, a very important thing which you have to discuss as per your NCERT itself, that is the structure of a sperm. That is the structure of a sperm. Clear? Can we move on? Yes. So sperm is a microscopic motile structure that consists of a head, neck, middle piece, and a tail. whole body is covered by a plasma membrane. The sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus, which have an anterior portion, a cap-like structure, which is known as the acrosome. The middle piece of the sperm contains numerous mitochondria, which actually produces the energy needed for the motility of the sperms. The tail of the sperm helps in the swimming of the sperm in through the female reproductive tract, and the seminal plasma along with the sperm constitute the semen, which is actually the white fluidy secretion, alkaline secretion, which is containing the male gamete. Is that clear? Is it clear for everyone? Yes. If you have any doubt, just comment me the doubts. I'll explain it. So this diagram is actually given in your NCRT. So those who are watching the session, don't forget to refer this diagram from your NCRT, maybe ask for your exam. Okay guys, so I am just stopping out this lecture number 1 of human reproduction, even though it was a one shot. I just explained each and everything and made you understand, I hope. So from this oogenesis onwards, we'll continue in the next session. I know now you will be thinking that I won't be taking, but definitely I'll be taking. I've recorded the session for cell, the unit of life, since it is a long, lengthy session. I'm not getting it uploaded or premiered. Okay. So anyway, you will receive that session. Anyway, don't get worried about on that. Since I'm stopping all the lectures in the mid part, I won't be continuing with that in the upcoming thing. You will be thinking, no, I'll definitely complete it. So don't worry. Whatever I am teaching right, you have to complete it today itself. Clear? So that's all for today. This is me signing out from your favorite channel, BioPoint, stream the world of bio. Bye bye.